What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we're talking about another hand cannon that came out with the Onslaught and Brave weapons with those nice shinies. The Midnight Coup used to be available way back in year 1 through some raids, so it was not super obtainable for a lot of people, especially after the raids went into the content vault. So we got this bad boy Midnight Coup kinetic 140 hand cannon for y'all with some amazing perks for both PvE as well as PvP. I do think this might feel even a little bit better than Luna's Howl inside of the Crucible. Now, before we get into those god rolls, we got Indomitability, the origin trait for this bad boy, which gives us grenade energy if we're using a light subclass, so our arc, void, or solar, as well as melee energy if we are using our darkness subclasses, so our strand as well as our stasis. This is definitely more a PvE perk for origin traits, but it can help with something inside of the Crucible as well. Maybe like an Osmiomancy Warlock with that stasis, Strip Mine Hunter, something along those lines. As for weapon mods for the PvP side of things, this thing is gonna go with Icarus Grip from me, or we have another option, just totally up to you. We have quick access as our other option with that increase in handling. Basically, it just gives us a faster ready and stow time. Next off for me, I went with the range on the Masterwork because we want this to compete with those 120s as well as those pulse rifles, scout rifles, whatever it may be, at the longest range possible. First barrel I went with would be my number one choice is Hammerforged Rifling. Gives us plus 10 to range, giving us a 70 stat in range with our other perks that we have on it for our magazine as well as our third and fourth column. Your second option is Small Bore, which gives us plus 7 to range, plus 7 to stability. If you are having trouble controlling this, we are down a little bit, like I said, only at 67 in the range instead of 70, so not too big of a change, but it does go up within the change from 67 to 70. Helping us out in that range category, I think this is your only option for the PvP realm for these magazines. Give yourself that Occurized rounds, which gives you plus 10 to range. Definitely my only choice for these mags. When we move on to our third column right here, we got a couple options. First is Moving Target, gives us that movement increase ADS and target acquisition, so gain us a 10 aim assist while we ADS and decrease that ADS movement penalty. So it's a nice thing to have inside of the Crucible because we are always moving around basically no matter what. Second option is Explosive Payload. Projectiles create an AoE detonation on impact. Just a little bit of extra damage that we get inside of those body shots, precision shots, helps us hit some enemies around the corner, almost like a timed payload. So it is a decent perk to have inside of the Crucible. I think I personally like Moving Target a wee bit more. Last option with this weapon is Enlightened Action. Don't pick it too often, but I think it has been a little slept on inside of the Crucible because of its improved reload and handling. This allows us to stack up to 12 times, you can see with the stat bonuses right here, up to plus 50 in that handling and reload, which is a bunch of handling and reload, so you can switch on and off of this very fast. And we already have a decent amount of reload on this since it is a 140, so that helps it out even better when you are just putting ammo down range, getting those defeats. Moving on to our fourth column, got three options. Again, in order, I would go with this opening shot right here. We gain that accuracy and range on the opening shot of attack. So you can see we get 20 to aim assist, 25 to range. So with this and how we have it built out, we're going to have 95 on the range when we have opening shot proc, which is absolutely disgusting. And then we have that increased accuracy via the accuracy cone, size and growth shrinking. So definitely my number one perk. Second option in the fourth column is Zen Moment. Causing damage with this weapon causes that reduced recoil and flinch over time, so it helps us to stay a little bit more consistent with our shots, especially when we are in sixes. Something like that helps us with the flinch on those pulse rifles that are coming at us, so this is my second choice behind opening shot. And finally, for the Crucible, Frenzy is a okay option, getting that little bit of a damage increase while we are in combat for 12 seconds. 15% damage is a nice little bit, plus we get 100 handling and 100 reload, so that does feel very, very good with the Crucible, but I think I like that opening shot a little bit more for that range, as well as our moving target just feels more consistent in my personal opinion. Still feels very, very good, giving it a good 4.75 inside of the Crucible. Moving on to the PvE side of things, also a very good weapon. We're going to throw on Boss Spec for our weapon mod, giving us that nice 7.77% increase on damage against those vehicles, mini bosses, just so y'all know, those dang Shriekers and Onslaught count as vehicles, so Boss Spec helps with those. If I am being honest, for Masterwork right here, totally a personal preference. You could go with Reload if you want, giving us a 66 stat for our reload, but I like the range. Being able to reach out a little bit farther inside of the PvE realm helps for sure, because there are enemies that shoot way farther than you would think, so it feels very good to have that extra range to put out that maximum damage when you are inside of the Onslaught, whatever activity you are in. Definitely your best choice in barrel right here is going to be that Master of the Small Bore with a range and stability at +7. Usually my go-to inside of the Crucible as well, but liking that little bit of extra range when we can get into that new bucket of actually being effective, like from the 67 to the 70. It just changes the effectiveness a little bit of it in PvP, but we don't need that as much here in PvE, so I went with Small Bore Stability. Second column, two options. My first one and S tier perk is this Tactical Mag. We get an extra shot in the magazine, +10 to reload, +5 for stability. Helps all around on the weapon, giving us that extra stability, as well as reload speed, so definitely feels the best in this column. Second option is the appended mag. All we're getting compared to that tactical mag is only an extra shot, so it's nothing too crazy in my opinion, but it is an extra option when you are going through grinding out the god rolls. Third column, three different perks for y'all. First off, we have a Firefly precision kills. With this weapon, increase reload, causing the targets to explode, dealing that solar damage to nearby targets. It is a very good perk to have that add clear potential of this weapon, so I really like this one as my first option. Second option, this is usually a fourth column perk, but we got that AoE effect detonation on impact of the explosive payload, splits off 50% into body, 50% into the damage is increased in PvE. So you can see right there, it is a good little bit of damage that we are getting increased based on this explosive payload, so it is my second option, but I like Firefly a little bit more. Last is Shoot to Loot right here. We can use it to pick up orbs as well as ammo, which actually reloads our weapons from reserves when we use Shoot to Loot, so it is a very good option in some of that hard endgame content where you can't move around too much without getting one shot. You can just stay where you are, pick up that ammo from in cover, pick up that Orbs of Power from in cover, so it is a good perk, but it is very situational. On to the fourth column, number one perk for me is this One for All. Hitting 3 separate targets gives us an increase in damage. We are getting a 35% increase in damage on for that 10 seconds, which is a lot of damage just for hitting 3 separate targets, so I personally like this one the most in this category. Second option for me would be Frenzy. Gives us that plus 15% increase to damage, 100 in handling, 100 in reload while being in combat, so this is a very good perk for PvE. Way easier to get this to proc because we are always inside of combat, basically inside of the PvE realm, especially in that Onslaught mode. Feels like it is very easy to get this to proc, and it's a consistent 15% increase against all enemies. Last but not least, for the PvE realm, we got Kinetic Tremors. This is the longest trait description by community research I have ever seen, but we are getting that sustained kinetic damage, gives us a shockwave that emits damage to nearby targets. With these hand cannons, it only takes 6 shots to hit, so with the tactical mag that we have on this, we're going to get that to proc twice. Plus, if we have something like explosive payload on this or Firefly with that one for all, we are getting a nice bit of damage increase, plus the shockwave to do some even more ad clear potential. So I really like Kinetic Tremors as a perk, like it more on like auto rifles or scout rifles, something like that has a little bit more ammo. I know it takes more shots to proc, but not as good in my opinion on a hand cannon. That's why we went with this one third, but very viable options for the PvE realm. I think I would throw this at about a 4.3, 4.5 out of 5 for the PvE realm. Like I said, Crucible slapping at like a 4.75. It is very good in my opinion, and it has very good perks here for the PvE realm as well. So grab yourself this bad boy from Shax inside of the Hall of the Champions or inside of Onslaught, getting yourself those horde clears. We got lots of videos helping you guys out with builds for that Onslaught, so make sure to hit that bell if y'all haven't. Slap that like button as well as subscribe. Helps me out a lot as well as helps out the channel, so I really appreciate when y'all do that, as well as the continued support of coming back and watching all of these videos. So I appreciate you guys again. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.